Hi everyone, it's Marguerite again from Wreaths by Marguerite with another tutorial for you. Pardon. This one is for Thanksgiving in the US. It is a Happy Thanksgiving turkey wreath. It is done in the storm door style. If you're asking what a storm door style wreath is, it means that it's only up to 4 inches deep so that you can fit it behind a storm or a screen door if you have one in front of your regular entry door. It allows for it to be displayed beautifully without looking crushed in that 4 inches of space versus a traditional wreath that has a lot of fluff and bows. So there's no bows in this style, but there's still lots of ribbon that gives it a real fluffy look from the front, but from the side is nice and thin so it will fit in that space perfectly. So stay with me and we will make this beautiful wreath to enjoy. And if you have any questions throughout the video, please feel to put them in the comment section. I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you have. So here we go. Okay, so let's first go over all the supplies. Remember, this is not a kit, it's one of a kind, and it will be available in my Etsy shop once completed as far as the premiere of the video. After the video is premiered, then I will list the wreath, okay? So this is what we have. My inspiration was this cute little turkey sign that says Happy Thanksgiving. It's got burgundies, it's got sage green, oranges, a little bit of red, a little bit of others, and those were the inspirations for the colors on my ribbon. I wanted to go with a orange base to help everything else pop out. So what we have is 10-inch mesh this way, and I cut them in 20-inch strips this way. It's orange. Let me see if I can bring you in tighter to see it. I don't know if you can see it or not, but you can see it better when they're all together. There is a burlap stripe all the way across on the mesh, so that gives us a more natural rustic look. Bring you back out. So we have 12 pieces of the mesh pre-cut. We have 12 of each of the ribbons I chose. The inspirations, as I said, come from the colors in the sign. I threw in a solid color burgundy for my center ribbon tail to give a little bit of pop of brightness like you have in the hat, and I don't forget what that part of the turkey is called. If you think of it, put it in the comments. Some brown with stripes, because these are kind of like stripes, the feathers. At least that's how I'm looking at it. And then I have the polka dots, because you have those polka dots around the edge in all the colors that are in those polka dots. So that's how I chose the 3 ribbons. I chose 2.5-inch wide ribbon this way. All 3. You can do any combination of 1.5, 2.5. If you do 2.5, you can do 3 different that are the same width. You can combine it with some 1.5. So I could have gone with the thinner version of this, the 1.5-inch, or any combination of. Having 3 2.5-inch ribbons in this gives more coverage of the mesh. Mesh is really just your solid foundation. If you want it to be seen, that's fine. But generally, it's there to support the product that's on top of it. Give it some lift, but not too much in this design since it's a pancake / storm door wreath. And like I've said in the beginning and the opening, a storm door wreath is a wreath that's under 4 inches deep, so that if you have a storm door or a screen door up against your regular door, there's 4 inches of space in between. So that allows you to put this style of wreath in there without anything looking smushed or crushed, versus a thicker, fluffier wreath and or with a big bow on it. It's not going to look good. It's going to end up smushed. So you don't have to make this storm door style wreath super flat if you're not going to have to worry about a storm or screen door, because you can put this style anywhere. I'm less attentive to keeping it flat when that's the case, but I make these assuming my customers need something to go behind a screen or a storm door. So I went with 3 ribbons. You can go from 2 to 3 ribbons, any combination. I've even done 1 2.5-inch ribbon and a 4.5-inch ribbon instead of 3, because the 4-inch ribbon, 4.5, 4, whatever it is, gives enough coverage to make up for 2 of these. So, because that's 2.5 and 2.5, so that's 5. So really, it's about that thick, if that gives you perspective. So, but this is what I've chosen to go with. This is a stripe. It goes either way. There's no direction you have to worry about putting it. The solid ribbon, the same thing. Now on this one, it is dimensional because the polka dots on this side are bigger than the polka dots on that side. So I have to be cognizant of that when I put it in the wreath. I don't want to have a mishmash, you know, some one way, some the other way. So what I usually do is I do every other one with the bigger dot towards the center of the wreath, and then every other in between those with the smaller dot towards the inside of the wreath. So it gives it a pattern and it looks intentional. Also gives it dimension. So I've already cut up 12 bundles. So all 3 of these were folded at the crease and put into bundles after I cut the V's on the top. And if you want to see how that's done, you can look at any of my other videos from 2024. That's where I did it in much more detailed fashion, and also the kits. When I sell a kit for a wreath I make on YouTube, I go into the details. So the beginning of 2024 is your best bet if you want to see every single piece of product cut, prepped, and ready to go. Okay? But for the sake of not boring you, since you may not be buying a kit, I have to assume for everybody. That's why I do it the 2 different ways. One way for making kits, one way is for product I'm making for customers or a shop. So that's all done. Save some time there. We can put this aside for now. We don't need the ribbon right now. Let me fold this one back up. So they're all folded so that there's a nice stiff crease in the center. So I usually put what I want on top inside of the second ribbon, and then I put what I want on the bottom around both of those, and those are my bundles ready to go when it's time to put them in the wreath. Now the sign, we've talked about this, and then there's the sign. This has got a foam base to it with a graphic on the top. This was purchased from Amazon if you like it. And because of that, it's hard to put staples in. So I tried one attempt, and I almost went through the front. We don't want that to happen. So what I did was I took some foam board, this little foam sheets that kids use to make crafts, and I cut pieces of it, and then I put it on the back and put a little regular glue around it so that I could staple pipe cleaners into it, and it's working great. I added a little extra glue where the pipe cleaner is too, to give it that much more support. This is a water resistant sign because it's foam board and the way it's made. So it can handle the rain and weather, just like the ribbon. I use good quality ribbons, always wired, because we want to make sure that it stands up well in the weather. If it gets wet, it's not going to hurt it. And it's not going to make it moldy or anything like that either. So those are on. I took 2 pipe cleaners and cut them in half to get 4 pieces, and that's why there's 4. Because we don't need a full-length pipe cleaner to go through the wreath. That's overkill. So I'm going to put him aside, upside down, so he's protected on the face till we're ready to use it, because we're going to use the mesh and the frame first. Let's talk about the frame. This is your foundation. It is a 14¼ inch wreath frame, and it has 4 rings on it. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm going to come in a little bit for this piece. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then it has what's called crossbars. Hold on, let me push these out so you can see it better. All right. So right here, 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 and here. So that's 6 crossbars on it. Why it's important is how you place your mesh and your pipe cleaners to keep that thickness, depth of the wreath to a minimum. So what happens is I take 12 pipe cleaners. Are you getting the connection now? 12 pipe cleaners, 12 pieces of mesh, 12 ribbon bundles. Okay? So 12 is a common number. They're also cut at 12 inches in length, each of the ribbon tails. So a lot of 12s in there. So 12 inches in length, 12 bundles, 12 pipe cleaners, and 12 pieces of mesh. So hopefully that's clear. Hopefully more clear than mud. Okay. So what you're doing is you're putting the pipe cleaners on the frame in this fashion. You take 6 on the outside and you place them where the crossbars are. And you're putting them around rings 1 and 2, right there. Okay? Then you take the other 6 and you're going to put them on rings 3 and 4, but in between the crossbars. So 6 outside of the crossbars, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then 6 on rings 3 and 4 in between the crossbars. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now we're going to get started with the actual production of making this beautiful, cute little wreath for Thanksgiving. We're not going to work on the 6 pipe cleaners in the center. That's for the second set of 6 pieces of mesh. So we push them to the center like I have here. And if you notice, I push the outer 6 to the outside edge. And now I'm going to open them in front of me one at a time so that they're horizontal to me. That's important because your mesh is going to go in vertical. So horizontal pipe cleaner, vertical mesh. So you notice as I'm turning them, I'm doing the work. I'm not reaching across the table and undoing it over there. That's to put less strain on your back. The less you strain your back, the longer you can go, the more comfortable you are when you're creating. I try to bring everything directly in front of me as I'm working on it. I recommend that for everybody. I think that's really a non-negotiable. Unless you're standing, but even then you're reaching across the table. I know a lot of people create standing. Most of the time I'm sitting. There are points in time during the process where I am standing, especially when I'm putting the sign on to make sure it's centered. Okay, so those are all ready to go. I say work on it in front of you. You can either have it straight on like this if you're comfortable, or put it slightly to the side. I'm left-handed, so I don't know if that's messing with anybody. So this technique I'm doing is from a left-handed person's perspective. But I think it converts to anybody, honestly. So the next thing we're going to need is to get some tools now that that's ready. We're going to need a wire cutter. You usually have those around the house. I have a couple of varieties. This is just a DeWalt from the hardware store, and this is from Deco Exchange. They are a resupply company here in Louisiana. So I need wire cutters. I usually have a chip clip, which again is nothing special. It's just something from the kitchen to hold my mesh. Then I need a pair of good scissors, and I use Fiskars. They're my favorite. They work the best. Let's see what else. We needed originally a rotary cutter and the cutting mat to cut the mesh. This is how you cut it. You can do it with scissors, but it's not as even, and this is much quicker. And then I use an embroidery needle, a plastic one that's 6 inches long, to pull my pipe cleaners on the back of the sign through the frame, and you'll see that in just a little bit. And I think that's about it for tools. Oh yeah, also I use a little wooden dowel. It's the same width as a standard pencil or pen, and I use that to help curl the pipe cleaners at the end. So again, you don't have to have a wood dowel around as long as you have a pen or pencil. Whatever works, just nothing that's really big. This one's too big. This one's a much bigger one, thicker. Alright, so let's put all that aside, because right now we're not using any of the tools except for the chip clip, the frame, and the mesh. Alright, so I got all my zip ties ready, and I work at an angle. It's still in front of me, but I still work at a little bit of an angle when I'm attaching the mesh. So the first thing you need to know is you need to uncurl it. You want it curl side down on your table. I like to use the edge of the table to uncurl it, okay? Now, if you have a solid colored mesh, you don't have these lines in them, like this burlap that's in them, to help you stay focused when you're gathering them. So virtually all of it, whether it's got a design in or not, I clip the center so I have a focal point to work towards when I'm gathering. So I'm going to fold this in half, or you can use a ruler to figure out your center, which would be 5 inches on a 10-inch mesh. But it's just easier and less tools necessary to just do it like that. This clip helps you stay on center when you're gathering, and it also holds the curl at bay while you're trying to ruffle, because it'll curl up on you if you don't have it weighed down. A lot of times I'll use a phone, or people will use a phone. I know one of my mentors uses a rock. She has like a pet rock, so to speak. She sits at the end. And then I come down to the other end, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to fold it in half so I can find my center, which is where I put that finger, which, you know, after making 2,000 plus wreaths, I can pretty much do it without all the tools. But it still doesn't hurt to do it even at my degree of investment in making wreaths. Especially if you're new at this, though. So I could just follow the line of burlap right here to make sure I stay on center. But I'm going to use my eyes and that clip to stay on center. And I'm going to gather the mesh into my thumbs. And don't say you can't do this just because you are intimidated. I'm I am at a disadvantage with small thumbs, but it's never stopped me. The only thing I can't really do very well is bowl. Can't hold onto the ball. At least I can joke about it, right? Okay, so let's go back. And we're going to start there and put our thumbs on the outside of the mesh and use both hands and gather up the mesh towards the clip. And if you notice, I'm not reaching across the table to ruffle it. I'm bringing it down towards me. And see how that mesh is coming up on the side trying to get in my way? That's where that chip clip is really helping out from making it do that more and making it difficult to stay focused. Then you're going to put your mesh, once it's completely done and you've taken the clip off, in your thumb and forefinger and hold it loosely so you can match up both sides of the mesh. We want them to be equal so that this is like a full circle. And you don't want to handle your mesh from the outside edge. If you do that, it's going to change the design. In some meshes, it's very noticeable, and some it's not, but let's not take a chance, all right? So I'm going to put it in this one because I need to adjust this one. I usually try to grab down by my fingers where I'm holding it to get it right, not hold on to the edge. And then I'm going to bring it over to my frame, and I'm turning it this way because I like this side better than this side on the outside. It's just me. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to put it in so that it's vertical to the pipe cleaners. And I'm going to put that in there. I'm going to bring the pipe cleaners open. The benefit of having those pipe cleaners open like that is you don't need the third hand to hold everything in place while you're trying to adjust it. You've got that step out of the way. You're twisting this tight and very low to the table so that the height, the depth of the wreath is, we're trying to keep it under 4 inches. The lower the better. It's still going to look fluffy when you look at it face down, you know, from the front. But from the side, I'll show you at some point what it looks like, how thin it really is. So now we're going to take this outside cut edge on one side and put it over the inside cut edge. And do the same thing on the other side, outside cut edge over the inside cut edge. Now it didn't exactly transfer into the zip tie, to the pipe cleaners perfectly. We got this big old point here and it dips here. We need to make sure there's 5 inches on each side of the pipe cleaner. And by pulling on this piece right here, it will get rid of that and round it out. The bottom line is you want this outside edge rounded out perfectly as you can get, because otherwise you'll have pieces of mesh, one going out too far and one coming into, you want to keep it nice and smooth. So I'm going to grab it up by the pipe cleaner, holding the pipe cleaners in my other hand, and I'm going to bring it out at that point where it dipped in. So that's going to pull it in over here and bring it out over there. It's a much more evenly rounded look. I've kept my mesh lined up on both sides, and it looks like that. Okay? Alright. So when I put the mesh in, I skip every other. So I did that one, so I won't do this one yet. And then I'll do this one. Then I'll do this one. Then I'll come back and do the 3 in between. That also helps keep your wreath thinner. So I'm going to use the table to open it up. I'm going to fold it in half and clip it with the chip clip. Always curl side down in this method. Bring the rest on the table, fold it in half, and do it again. Now, this is mainly for those that live in the United States. This is where we have Thanksgiving, I think it's the last Thursday always. I'm getting too far out of school to remember all the details anymore, and I know, bad. It's usually the last Thursday of November, and I know Canada has a Thanksgiving. It's earlier in the month. So I'm curious, what is the version of Canada's Thanksgiving? Ours is to celebrate, in the beginning of Americans being here from England and such. It was a celebration with the Pilgrims and the Indians, originally. What was the basis of Thanksgiving in Canada? I don't know that. I should probably look it up, but anybody knows, feel free to put in the comments. I love the interaction. And also if you have any questions. So that one wasn't quite so bad. I still had to do adjustments. It's not a big deal, but always hold the pipe cleaner when you're adjusting it, because if you don't, the pressure of adjusting the mesh will sometimes open the pipe cleaner up. So yeah, I find that helps. you get to benefit from my trial and error. There's lots of us out here that have great ideas that have been through. They've been through themselves and can recommend to save you some energy and frustration. So again, it's curl side down, fold it in half, ruffle it all up into your thumbs using all your fingers. Now, when I get talking, I don't pay quite as much attention to what I'm doing. My bad. So I don't know if on that last loop I crawled up to ruffle it or if I brought it to me. Either way, ultimately these are just suggestions. You do what is most comfortable for you and gives you the results you want. Okay? I find the mesh to be the most tedious part of the wreath, but this is so important. I've often heard my business coach refer to it as the bra of your wreath. And we laugh about it, but it's true, because your bra, if you're a woman and you're wearing a bra, that's the foundation to hold everything up. Well, on a wreath, it's the foundation to hold everything up. So he was totally right on, as silly as it sounds. Gotta have a few laughs once in a while, right? Now, if it sticks up funny like that, I'm gonna adjust that. You definitely want to try to curl the outside edges under, but it's not always going to cooperate with you. It's not the end of the world. The second layer is going to also hold it down as well. So now we're ready to do the 3 sections in between. Get those all in place. And now we're going to do the next 3 for this layer. Okay. Curl side down. Clip the center. And I'll apologize right now. I tend to fling my tools. Is that a bad thing? I suppose. But I just, I want it out of the way. I'm not angry. I'm not upset. It's just been a habit since the beginning. I don't fling the rotary cutter. That would be bad. But I do make sure it's closed so it doesn't end up getting somebody cut. Alright. Take that clip off. When I get to the top layer, I'm going to show you the other way I ruffle too. It also helps because the mesh we use on the top layer is usually all the way in the center of this roll, and they're much tighter curls, and they fight you more. So the way I will do it there will help keep the curl at bay. You'll understand when we get there. So that was in vertically, and the pipe cleaner is horizontal. Twist the pipe cleaner tight and low 2 to 3 times, at least 2, but 3. And we're doing it down low towards the table to keep that height down. Outside cut edge over inside cut edge. Outside cut edge over inside cut edge. I'm going to curl these under. Take a look at it. Make sure I'm evened up. If not, I would pull on the mesh from the opposite side to get it straight. That's a little pointy and that's not quite as rounded, so I'm going to do that. Alright. Let's move on to this one. Curl side down. Clip the middle. Roll it out. Fold it. Start gathering. Adjust it if it's not lined up. Bring it over to your frame. So that mesh is in vertically and the pipe cleaner is horizontal. Okay. Tight and low, twist, twist, twist. And then I bring it up in the air so it's out of the way while I'm putting that outside cut edge over the inside cut edge and the outside cut edge over the inside cut edge. This is slightly short of that piece. I want to bring it out about 1/2 inch. So I'm grabbing it down here by the pipe cleaner, holding the pipe cleaner with my other hand, and fixing my circle. So this is nice and even. And if you're not sure if it's 5 inches or if it looks like it's more, just use the cutting mat on the table to make sure it's at 5 inches. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. Just sometimes it looks different than it actually is, from the angle you're sitting at or standing at or viewing it at. So this will be the final piece for the first layer. We're folding it in half. We're clipping the center, curl side down, fold it half on the other end, and start ruffling into your thumbs. And also, do they celebrate Thanksgiving in other cultures, other parts of the world? That's another good question. Do they do it in Great Britain, United Kingdom? Do they do it in Australia? Do they do it in Japan? I'm curious. If you know, share. We're putting that in there vertically. We're bringing the pipe cleaner up, over, twist tight and low 2 to 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Bring it up in the air and put one cut edge over the other. The outside cut edge over the inside cut edge. It's always outside cut edge over inside cut edge. And I'll explain that to you. Why do you do it like that, Marguerite? I do it that way because deco mesh, all mesh, frays. There's just no avoiding it. There are people that use a wood burner to cut their mesh. It stinks, and you can't do it on this because it has that burlap in there, so it's fabric. It has to be the all poly, the all plastic mesh. And that does help a lot, but it doesn't eliminate fraying completely. And if you have these outside cut edge over the inside cut edge, all of the cut edges on your mesh are going to be hidden within the wreath, not susceptible of catching on anything and making it worse. So that is why I do it that way. That's why I put my mesh in vertically, so that I can take those outside edges over each other, and they're in the heart of the wreath where you don't see them or they're not touched once it's complete. Also, because of the nature of it, it's totally like Velcro. You'll hear me in all my videos say mesh is like Velcro, which is the devil. That's why I always try to make sure I wear short sleeve shirts. And if I don't wear something short sleeve, I roll it way up. And don't wear good clothes, because you'll be sorry, because you will snag this on your clothes. Another thing you need to remember when working with mesh is make sure you have a table big enough to do the work. A cutting mat. This cutting mat is 36 inches by 24. That's a good amount of space to have. But if you're like me, you want more and more and more because you want all the tools and everything around it. Just make sure you have enough that you can work on your project without frustration and struggle. If all I had was this mat to work on, I would take my trash can and I would sit it over here next to me, and I would stick the wreath on it as I'm preparing all the other materials, and then bring it back to the table. Just a few ideas to put in your head on how you want to set up your space if you're going to be doing this on your own. Scratch my eye, which is probably not a good idea when I'm dealing with burlap. Oh well. Okay, so now it's time to put the first 6 sets of ribbon tails into this. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, there they are. So we're going to be working with these pipe cleaners. We're going to bring them up, and with the mesh we had them horizontal, but putting in the ribbon tails we're going to have them vertical. So let's all get them in place and prepped and ready for us to put our ribbon in there. Our ribbon tail bundles. Okay, they're all ready. So now on the bottom level, for sure, on this bottom layer, because there's 2, for sure, this is the technique I always use for putting my bundles in. On the top layer, I'll talk about it. I may or may not do it exactly the same. I might do a starburst, and you'll understand what I mean when I get there. Okay, so I've opened my bundle up, and remembering that I have larger dots on that side and smaller on this side, the first 3 that I put in are going to have the larger dots towards the center of the ribbon. And I'm going to gather it in my thumb and forefinger, and I'm going to grab it by my thumb and forefinger, grab the other 2 sides, both sides, bring them down towards the edge of the table, making sure that they're even on both sides. And I'm going to take it over to the wreath. I'm going to put it in the pipe cleaner, making sure that upside down V, or what they call an inverted V, is in there nicely how I want it, everything facing the outer edge. I take that pipe cleaner and I'm really tightly going to twist it tight and low 3 times. Don't be afraid of the pipe cleaner, it's not going to break. Then I go, after I've done the tight and low 3 twists, I'm going to do upward twist towards the ceiling so that I can create a about an inch and a half inch twist, and that's where this wire cutters come in. So above where I've twisted it, I'm going to cut the excess off. I'm going to either wait and position my ribbon and then lay it down into the mesh, or you can do it right now with the cut end facing the inside of the wreath so no one will see the mechanics. And then you can wait till the ribbon is positioned and do the exact same thing. So I did it first, and then I'm going to lift and separate the ribbons, and I'm going to pull the top two away from the third, and I'm going to position my ribbon where I want it to sit. I'm running my fingers over the edges, and then if this is not gathered perfectly, you're going to get little bubbles in there, and that's completely normal. You just pop them out with your fingers. Then you go to the next one, position that one where you want it. This is a thinner mesh, so it's not as stiff as this. So the whole bubble concept tends to be more likely in this kind of ribbon. And then I'm going to take that last ribbon and bring it down here. So it's stripe, solid, polka dot. I'm going to turn it a little. So I have this side in front of me, and I'm going to do it the opposite. The burgundy will be in the center. You're still going to take and lift them all up and away. That way you get it pulled away all the way down to the pipe cleaner. And I'm going to position the stripe outside. So it's going to be stripe up, stripe down. So polka dot down, this will be polka dot up. Lift, separate, and position, and each one of them as I'm going, I'm trying to get those little bubbles at the top out, and I'm running my fingers over the edge to get any wrinkles. Yeah, so there's that. On the bottom layer, it's not as important to get any curl in your ribbon because it's going to be pressed down by the rest of the wreath. So lay it out nice and straight. I have a tendency to take my hand and push down on it, including the pipe cleaner, to help it stay outside. And if you notice, I didn't grab any of the ribbon from the tips because like mesh, it can fray not as easily, but you don't want to handle the cut edge unless you have to, because then you'd have to trim it, it'd be shorter, blah, blah, blah. So remember, we're going to do every other just like we did with putting the mesh in. So we're going to skip this one, and we're going to bring that one around to us, and we're going to remember that the bigger polka dots are going towards the center of the wreath. Open the bundle, gather up, hold it in the center, bring the outside edges down to the edge of the table, make sure that they're even. You can just usually eyeball it to figure that out and put it in there. Tight and low. That pipe cleaner was vertical because the ribbon goes in horizontal. We're twisting 3 times low now, and then we're going to twist up, and it's usually about 6 to 8 twists to get an inch and a half on your twist. Cut the excess off. This time I'm going to leave it up to show you how that works. Sometimes it pops back up when you're positioning the ribbon anyway, so really it just makes more sense to leave the pipe cleaner sticking up till you get all your ribbon in its place. Lift, separate, position. Lift, separate, position. And then position that one. Then we want to lift, separate, position, putting the stripe down at the bottom this time, the burgundy in the center, and the polka dot at the top. Now I'm going to push this down. And I push down on the whole thing a little bit too. That helps it keep under that 4.5 inches as well. 4 inches, not 4.5. Skip this one. Go into the next. Okay, remembering that the bigger dots go towards the center of the wreath. We're gathering up at the center where the creases were from the folds. Edges to the end of the table. Put this in. Twist tight and low. 1, 2, 3. Then twist up. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, 6 was enough. Depends on how tightly you twist them. And putting it towards the center of the wreath, but not pushing it down to the back, keeps it from having any potential contact with the door and scratching it too, because that pipe cleaner can be sharp. Lift, separate, position. Lift, separate, position. Position. Run your fingers over the edge. Turn it. I get a better ribbon tail when I turn it to work on what I'm working on instead of trying to do both. So if I were to have left it like this and done it like this this won't look as good as that one. It just doesn't for me. Maybe it's just me, I don't know. So lift, separate position, lift, separate position. All right, so now I'm going to make sure everything's where I want it to be. I want it all facing the outside edge of the wreath, and then pushing everything down in there, and we're good to go. So now we get to go back and do the other 3. And this time we want to make sure that the bigger dots are on the outside of the wreath, so the smaller dots face the inside of the wreath. Gather it, make the inverted V, bring it over to the frame. Twist tight and low 3 times. Twist up 6 to 8 to create a 1 to 1.5 inch twist. Cut the excess off, all right? Lift, separate position, lift, separate position. And I had somebody ask me the other day, why do I only use wired ribbon? Because you can control it and then it'll stay where you put it for the most part. It's particularly important to use in bows, otherwise you'll have a very floppy bow as well. So I turned it a little, lift, separate position, lift and separate position. Sometimes it tries to run away from you. That's okay. Just press it into place like that. Make sure your ribbon is nice and straight out to the edge. Next one, remembering that the small polka dots go towards the center of the wreath. Ruffle, inverted V, stick it in the pipe cleaner. Okay. Tighten low, 1, 2, 3, then upwards towards the ceiling about 6 to 8 times, depending on how tightly you twist it. Cut the excess untwisted pipe cleaner off, throw that away. Lift, separate position. Lift, separate position. Run your fingers over the edges to make them smooth. Get rid of the little bumps and the gathers if you can. Lift, separate position. Lift, separate position. Press your pipe cleaner down into the mesh. Like I said, I also press everything down. Gives it, makes it thinner. And last but not least, for this layer, we're putting the small dots towards the center of the wreath, ruffling up the center, and then we're bringing the edges down towards us. So now we will be doing the same technique on the top layer with the mesh and the ribbon, and the same pattern with every other. The only difference is how we spread out the ribbon on the top layer, and I'll talk about that when we get there. So lift, separate position, lift, separate, and position, and then position the top one, and we're running our fingers over them all as we go along. Do that on this side, now that I've turned it. Lift, separate, position, the stripes down this time, then the burgundy, and then the polka dot. So we're going to press it down, push the pipe cleaner in, and bring the stripe out from hiding and fix it. Now your ribbon is probably going to creep up under the mesh and the top layer while we're putting it together, but that's why at the end we come back and we lift the top layer of mesh and make sure all ribbon on the bottom layer is facing the outside of the wreath. Okay, so now we have finished the first layer, and we're going to go back and get those 6 pipe cleaners that are on the center 2 rings 13 floor, and bring them up between each piece of mesh that we've already laid into the frame. Okay, so there's 6 of them, so that's 3. We don't take the pipe cleaners through the mesh, we bring it between 2 pieces of mesh. You see more now why they're staggered on the second layer. They're not in the exact same place on the frame as they were for the first layer. Okay, so you can do it like this, or you can also, when you bring it up, immediately open it up, because remember, for putting the mesh in, the pipe cleaners are horizontal. For putting the ribbon in, the pipe cleaners are vertical. Okay? And you notice I'm pretty consistent about bringing the wreath around to work on what I need to right directly in front of me. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and put in the last 6 pieces of mesh, just like we did on the bottom layer. Still curl side down. We're going to fold it in half and put our chip clip right here in the center to mark the center. Bring it out here. And we're going to do the same thing on this center end to find our center, and then grab it with both hands. Start gathering, and this is where I'm going to change it a little bit from the bottom layer. I gathered it all the way up doing this, but remember I said that that mesh gets curlier as you get further down into the roll. And it gets curlier, and then when we get further down, it's going to start doubling over like that because this won't have weighed down enough. That's why a rock or your phone is a great weight also. But again, I use the chip clip to make sure I keep focused on the center when I'm gathering. So this second technique that I use a lot when I'm doing at least the top 6 is I start to ruffle with both hands like I did on the bottom level, and then I stop at a point shortly after I start, and then I just use one and use the other hand to bring up here to keep my mesh flat, and just take one hand, all my fingers, and gather, staying focused on that center. And then when I get to the end, I take it off. Boom. Loosely in my thumb and forefinger. Position it so that it's even on both sides. Okay? Bring it over to my frame. Remembering always, always, the mesh goes in vertically into the horizontal pipe cleaner. Now remember I said the mesh phrase. Give me a minute and I'll tell you what I'm going to do next. So I'm taking and I'm twisting it tight and low 3 times. You do that with the ribbon too, but you have the extra steps. Okay, so don't get too confused. Watch the video a few times before you make something. So I twisted that tight 3 times, and I'm going to put these up in the air out of the way so I can take the outside cut edge of the mesh and place it over the inside cut edge of the mesh. Same thing on the other side, outside cut edge over the inside cut edge. I'm going to make sure everything's good. It's a little longer on this side, so I'm going to grab down by the pipe cleaner. Bring a little bit more out on this side, curl the outer edges under, make sure that I'm even on both sides. Now, I was saying that there was a piece of mesh that when we were dealing, I can talk, oh my gosh. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, sorry. I said mesh phrase. So as you're going through your project, as you go, if you find a string sticking out from your mesh, immediately cut the piece of fray out and throw it in the trash. Okay? That way you don't have to go back later and try to find it. At the end, I do turn it over to double check to see if there's any thread sticking out, because from dragging it across the table, sometimes it loosens a few pieces. This is completely normal. It's unavoidable. I don't think anybody's figured out how to do this perfectly as far as keeping the mesh completely intact. I know there are some companies that now sell pre-cut deco mesh, but that's mainly for a wreath done on a UITC board. We can talk about that later, or you can go look up UITC. It's a great vendor out of Canada. Okay. See, I shouldn't be fussing with this ribbon on the bottom. The less I touch it, the better. But habits die hard. Okay. So I've got that in place. Now I'm going to skip this one, and I'm going to go here and do another piece of mesh. I need to just bring them over here instead of reaching so far at this point. Curl side down always on a storm door wreath. Fold it in half. Clip it in the center. Or use a ruler or the cutting mat to figure out where your center is, which would be 5 inches on this mesh since it's 10-inch mesh. I sat on my foot too long. Okay. I'm going to ruffle on this end using both hands just for a few ruffles. Then I'm going to put my hand here and use one hand to ruffle it all the way up to the clip. I find I get a better ruffle. Could just be me. Anything's possible when I do it this technique with the one hand. Alright? I'm not grabbing the outside edge because I don't want to ruin the design. Okay. I had to say that because now I think I'm going to really have to adjust this when I can get it in the frame. Oh boy. Do what is most comfortable for you and gives you the best results. I'm just here to give you guidance, ideas. Tight and low, 1, 2, 3. That mesh is in there vertically, so I'm going to take that outside cut edge over the inside cut edge. I think I've got way more on this side. That's probably what the problem is. And then I'm going to take the outside cut edge over the inside cut edge. That's the main problem. I have way more than half on the inside of the frame. I'm just pulling it into place carefully. You are putting these pipe cleaners pretty tight, but they're not so tight that you can't pull that mesh out like this without adjusting it. If you are making it tighter than that, you must have arms of steel. Alright, let's get that in there. Alright, this is still sticking in a little bit, which means, yep, it's extra pointy over here, so I'm going to adjust that. So we have a nice smooth circle on the outside, because this right here and this right here is what the customer and yourself or whoever's looking at it will see, okay? So that's 2. I always have a few that like to give me fits, but it's pretty easy to fix. Worst case scenario, you take it out and re-ruffle it, but make sure it's not too damaged from the ruffling. You might have to cut a new piece if you have the supplies. I know when I make the kits, I put an extra piece of each ribbon and of the mesh in there just in case you have a boo-boo. But what keeps my kits affordable is there's not a bunch of excess supplies that you may or may not use elsewhere. You get just enough and a little extra to make your project. Nothing makes me crazier when I have these rules of product that I know I'm never going to use again. So buying kits from me allows you to get just what you need and keep the cost of investment down. Okay, so we did that one and that one. We skipped that one, so did that, skip, so we're coming here. One, 2, 3, tight and low. Bring that outside cut edge over the inside cut edge, and it even sticks to itself. Doing it the outside cut edge over the inside cut edge technique also helps the cut edges stick to itself. Keeps it in place as well. These went into hiding, so I'll bring those back out. So now we're down to the final 3 pieces of mesh. See how much curlier it is? The other ones were like that big when I started. I always try to use the tighter center pieces on the top layer. Just like it better that way. You'll find your own way to do things that you're the most comfortable with. Ruffle, ruffle, ruffle. After this one, I'm going to get a sip of something to drink because all this talking dries you out. But I enjoy being here with you guys. I'm really hoping that you learn something new and fun and decide to try it for yourself. Put that in there. Twist it once and then bring it over here. When I'm creating and not doing a kit, I mix it up. I change patterns of how I'm doing things because there are days, especially during show season, craft show season, where I'm making 8 to 10 wreaths a day and nothing's worse than something being monotonous. Mix it up a little bit. But until you're comfortable with all of it, I would do it the same way over and over. Here's another one, and then we only have one left to go. Use that table to uncurl it, fold it in half, clip it in the center. I'm going to fold it in half on this end. It's more curly now, so it's fighting me even on this end. Gather it a little bit, and then put the hand out to keep those curls in control. Okay. Now, if you want a bigger diameter wreath, you can put more than 5 inches on one side, make it more like 7 or so. And this is on the inside because no one really sees it. If you want to make it, you know, a couple inches wider. But we're going with a standard wreath, storm door wreath right now. So we're keeping it half and half on each side of the center. Put it in the frame. And twist it at an angle right here. And then bring it in front of me. Twist it a couple more times. And like I said, most of the tools you use are things that you have around the house in a toolbox and in your kitchen and maybe in your desk. So you don't have to go out and buy any special tools per se. You do, if you're going to cut mesh, have to have a cutting board. These things are self-healing and they keep you from destroying your table. And a rotary tool. A lot of quilters use these, but it's also very heavily used, obviously, in the wreath making community. Anytime you're dealing with mesh. Okay, so we've got one more to go. And then we're going to talk about the rest of the ribbon and the sign. See how curly that is? Uncurl it with the edge. I'm going to use my tummy to hold it so it doesn't curl back up. Put that clip on the end. It's so much curlier. I'm going to put my phone down there. Because it's just, see how curly it got? Give it a little extra weight there so I'm not fighting it so much. Fold it in half down here to find your center. And then just ruffle up the center. Like I said, this does have lines in it that you can follow with your eyes, but if you lose eye contact, you might end up going one way or the other. So... my phone went on. That was weird. What was I saying? You might veer to one side or the other. The phone threw me off when it started talking. Okay, making sure that's right. As much as possible. Turn it over. Mesh goes in vertical. Pipe cleaner's horizontal. On the mesh only. Just remember this, whatever direction the material is going in, the pipe cleaners go the opposite. 3 tight and low. Bring this outside cut edge up and over the inside cut edge. That curl is going to be fighting you a little, pulling that out a little. And then you're going to take the other side, and everything wants to come with it because it's sticking to the ribbon. Don't just pull on it or you'll fray the edges of the ribbon. Outside cut edge over inside cut edge. That's about 1 inch off, so I need to bring the top. I'm going to hold my pipe cleaners out a little bit more. Get this all nice and rounded. There you go. And we have all the mesh in now, so there you go. And now it's time to talk about both the sign and the top layers ribbon. Now, if this was a perfectly rounded sign or a perfectly squared sign, I would put the sign in and then the ribbon. But we want to see the shape of the turkey. So turkey, ovals, stars, triangles, any shape that is not just perfectly round or squared. You want to see all the features and the edging and the shaping of it, right? So in that case, I always put the ribbon on before I put the sign. But if it's a square or round, I put the sign on and then I put the ribbon on. But it's entirely your choice how you want to do it. It's nice on the round and square to frame it with the ribbon on top instead of underneath. It just frames it a different way by being underneath. So we're going to put the sign aside because we've decided in this one that we are not going to put it on until after the ribbon. And we're going to go back to putting the ribbon in. And remember, with the ribbon, it's going horizontal. So what does that mean? The pipe cleaners go vertical. So we're going to get these all vertical to start with. So we're not struggling with that for that third hand we don't have. And they are all ready to go. Now on the bottom layer, we started out the same way. We're going to put the larger polka dots on the first 3 that we put in, and then smaller polka dots on the inside, the second set of 3. We're going to gather it up the center just like we did on the bottom, and we could put it in just like this, instead of doing the inverted V and spread it out like this, lift, separate, position. But I fear in this case, with it splayed out like a starburst like that, it's going to be hidden. A lot of the ribbon will be hidden by the sign. So I'm going to take it back out and do it the same way as we did on the bottom layer. It's something you have to judge. Okay? So I'm going to redo that. I'm going to bring these down to the edge, making sure I have an even amount of ribbon on each side of my fingers. Bring that back over. Put it in. Twist tight and low 3 times. And then leave it on the top layer. That's the difference. Leave it. I'll show you in a few minutes what we're going to do with that. And we're going to take the ribbon and go up, lift, separate, position. Run your fingers over the wired edges. Make them smooth. Lift, separate, position. Lift, separate, position. The other thing I do, you can do it exactly the same on the bottom where one side's one way and one side's the other. But on the top layer, I always do it the same on both sides. But there's one distinct difference. Lift, separate, position. Lift, separate, position. So I'm getting these all. This way you'll see most of the ribbon even with the sign on it. So what I'm going to do is these 3 are going to have the chocolate striped ribbon facing the inside of the wreath. And then when I do the other 3, the chocolate ribbon on both sides of the bundle will be facing out. So that's the difference. That's really the only difference on the top that I'm doing differently than on the bottom on this particular example. So we're skipping. And we're going to do this one exactly the same as that. Large dots to the center. Pull it down to the edge because we're going to put it in the inverted V fashion so the tips are all facing the edge of the wreath. Twist it 1, 2, 3. We're not doing anything with it right now. We're going to lift and separate and position. We are not twisting and cutting the pipe cleaner on this one. We're definitely not twisting it like we did on the bottom layer. We're not twisting it up, I should say. Just the 3 twists. That's all you need. Once I get them all in, I'll give you your options of what you can do to the pipe cleaner next. This layer, I'm going to get it a little curlier, I think, because it just looks so pretty. And even when you lay it down behind the screen or storm door, the curl is going to lay down enough that it won't look squished. So we're skipping this one. I'll fix that when I get back there. See how much curlier that one looks? That one's a little straighter. It's more dimension. We're skipping that one. And we're doing this third one the same exact way as I just did the 2 previous. As far as where I'm positioning the ribbons. Sorry, guys. Twist. 1, 2, 3. Sorry, I have to take a minute. All right. Lift. That's distracting. Separate. Lift. Separate. Position. Give it a little extra curl, and you can also use your pen, pencil, or wooden dowel to give the ribbon curl. I actually learned that from a customer. It makes it look really fluffy. So if you're in a situation where you're not using it behind a screen or a storm door, you can make it really fluffy. Lift, separate, position. Lift, separate, position. Lift, separate, position. These just had an attitude of their own. Alright, so now let's go back and do the other 3. I had to take care of a little business there. Apologies, everyone. Never did get my sip of soda either. There we go. I felt like I was getting a little raspy too. So remember, on this first set, we had it with the larger polka dots to the center of the wreath. Now we're going to turn it and have the smaller polka dots to the center of the wreath. Doing the same thing. Putting that in there horizontal to the vertical pipe cleaners. 1, 2, 3 times only. Lift, separate, position. Lift, separate, position. And then position that one. So now you see, I did it wrong. I did it wrong. Did you catch what I did wrong? Chocolate goes down and polka dots go up. Lift, separate, position. Lift, separate, position. Okay, let's get this all straight. All right, so see what I did there? Chocolate up, chocolate down, chocolate up. So this will be chocolate down. Polka dots to the center. Ruffle up the center. Put it in there. Lift, separate, position. And separate, position. And there we go. Can you see it coming to life now? Lift, separate, position. Lift, separate, position. Small polka dots to the center. Ruffle this last one up the center. Pull them tails down to me evenly. Put it in there horizontally. Pipe cleaners vertical. Tight 1 through 3 times. Tight and low. And just lift them up for now. Lift, separate, and position. Lift, separate, and position. Okay, that one's good. And then we're going to do the bottom. Not the bottom. Lift, separate, position. Lift, separate, position. And then position that one. Alright, so now we're going to address the pipe cleaners. Okay. So the first thing I like to do is determine if I want to just see a stump of the pipe cleaners. And if that's all I want to do, I do that a lot in a lot of designs that I think that are going to go to men because they're not into all the foofy stuff as much. But then again, it is a wreath, so it's foofy to begin with. Anyway, so if you want to make it so that you only see a stump of your pipe cleaner, there we go. You're going to do the twist like you did on the top after all. But you're going to keep going. And then what you're going to do is lift your ribbon up on one side and bring that around the back and cut the excess off. So all you're seeing is this little bitty stub of the pipe cleaner. But I'm not doing that. I am loving all the fun stuff. Not that that's not fun. But lift, separate, and position to get that back in shape. I'm going to untwist this. And then what I do is I go around and I make sure that all the pipe cleaners are the same length. Because from twisting them to put the mesh and ribbon in, most of the time your pipe cleaners end up 2 different lengths, both sides of the pipe cleaner. So I usually go around and even them out. And then basically even them out in length too, so they're all pretty uniform. You don't have to do that because once I curl them, you won't see, but I just like the consistency of it. I like it to look finished as possible. So let me bring this back out. It's interesting how some of them are so much longer than they were to begin with, and they all started out the same. But the lengths end up so different in some cases. It's just what direction you take your pipe cleaners when you're creating, honestly. So make sure that's straight. Even it up. So this is where you want your pen or your pencil or the dowel ready, because what we're going to do is this. I'm going to bring that back in again, actually. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to curl this around the dowel pencil or pen. That one on the inside towards the inside of the wreath and bring it down to the base in the center of the ribbon. And then the outside one I'm going to curl towards me away from the wreath towards the outside edge. And it's going to go right there like that. Now if you want, you can pull them out and put little styrofoam balls on the tips. I've done that with some holidays and patriotic. Gives it that look of a star, not a star, fireworks kind of. But we're not doing that on this project. We are leaving it just centered there. Let's go on which top, bottom. This goes on top. Okay. All right, let's go around, turning it as we go to get these ready. Twist and tight. Twist away, twist toward me. Twist away from me, twist towards me. Twist away from me. Why is that one cockeyed? Stop, just stop. Okay. Twist away from me. Twist towards me. All 6 of them. Just another added little feature. Twist away from me. Twist towards me. Twist away from me. Twist towards me. And then last but not least, twist away from me. Twist towards me. Making sure not to twist the ribbon next to it into your twist. Bring it back out. And there we have it. And we now have a special appearance from my 10-year-old doggo Maggie May. My chocolate lab baby. Hi, baby. She's nosy. Hi. There you go. So now I'm going to stand up because it's time to put the sign in. Alright, so this looks like this does go under. On top and under. I try to keep every other one. I don't know how it got out of order, but it did. So, I shouldn't be fussing with the ribbon till we're done. It's time to put the sign on. I always put my wreath so that one of the pipe cleaners is at 12 o'clock and one's at 6 o'clock, and then there's 2 on each side. That helps me center my sign when I'm positioning it. The other thing I didn't point out earlier on this sign is it came with a hanging cord. So there's a hole here and here, so it was burlap. So I cut a piece of the burlap, knotted it up, and put it through, and then glued it on the back side in place so it doesn't look like you've got holes in the wreath sign accidentally. I just think it looks fine. So you have to determine your center. It's easy for the hat because it's the middle of his hat. This will fit in between the ribbons. So I know that on this side, that's the center in the buckle in between his eyes. If you need to mark it on the back to be sure, go ahead and do that. And then on this side, I'm going to center it between his little turkey feet. And I'm going to pull the ribbon away from the mesh where I'm going to be pulling the pipe cleaners through to the back, okay? We don't want to try to pull this through the ribbon. So now I'm going to take that needle that I use. If you don't have it, you can just take the pipe cleaner and push it through the mesh. It's a little more difficult. That's what we did for years until one of the other people in the community came up with this idea. It eliminates all the stress by just putting it through all the way. See how easy that was? When you're putting the pipe cleaner through, sometimes it goes its own direction. I'm putting the tip of the pipe cleaner through the needle and then pulling it through to the back and pulling it off of the needle. And when we're doing the signs, we usually put the pipe cleaners through in an X fashion. So I went from that one, I'm going to do this one next. Then I'll come back and do this and then this one next. Okay, so we turn the wreath around so we're not straining. Put the wire through the frame, and I'm angling it a little bit, the needle through the frame. I'm angling it a little bit so that the pipe cleaner is hidden under the sign once we're all done. It's not visible. So there is that. Then I'm going to do this one. So I did this and this. So now I'm going to do this and this. Put this one through here. Fold it over a little bit so it stays on the needle when it's traveling through the wreath. Come back and do this one. Trying to keep it centered. And making sure that you also aren't putting it through the ribbon on the lower layer. Okay. Alright, so now let's make sure it's centered. This is bugging me, so let me fix that first. I don't need to, but I'm going to. So the most important thing is to make sure it's centered. So what I usually do is I put my hand on it before I turn it over. But I'm also going to put this on top of it so I'm protecting the sign from getting scratched when I turn it over. So now we've got 4 pipe cleaners coming through the frame. And usually I'm able to tie them where another pipe cleaner is to hide the work. The back of your wreath's not going to be as pretty as the front, but anytime you can make it look more finished, the better. So I'm putting a little pressure on the wreath so that the sign will stay put once we're done, but doesn't look like it's pulled in and squished. And I'm just taking that pipe cleaner and wrapping it around the frame wherever you put it, and make sure the sharp point of the pipe cleaner is facing back down towards the front of the wreath. And we're going to do that here. Here's one. There's 4 to do. Bring it through. Twist it around the frame till it's completely gone. You can cut off some of it, but I don't necessarily recommend that, because if you do take the sign off and you want to use it elsewhere at some point, you can. I've had customers come back to me with wreaths that were years old, and the sign was still in immaculate condition, and asked me if I would be willing to recreate the wreath, and I'm like, sure, why not? All I'm doing is making the base over and throwing the sign on there, and they're good to go again. This one didn't come out where there was another pipe cleaner on the frame, so it's off on its own over here. Let's do the last one here, and try to lift it when you turn it. Don't just drag it on the table. Put this through. Not through the mesh. Sounds like my doggo found a mesh roll from the center. She likes to chew on those. You're not supposed to eat them though. You're supposed to spit them out, but she is a dog. They think they gotta eat everything, don't they? Who else has a doggo? And what's their name? My dog's Maggie May. You know who that's? She's named after. If you know anything about 70s music, Rod Stewart had a song called Maggie May. Okay, so everything's on there. I'm going to throw this away now because we're done with it. Well, I looked at the back while we were working on it, on the ties, to see if there was any frays, and there wasn't. The first thing I'm going to do while I'm still standing is I'm going to recurl and reposition my ribbon. So this one is going to be a slight bit over the turkey, but not so much that it doesn't completely cover his little turkey feet. Okay, go ahead and make sure all this stuff is positioned the way I want it to be. Okay, she had enough of me. She's out of here. I'm still keeping the tails so that one sets over the one next to it. Keeping that pattern going. Giving it a little extra curl. I'll have to do that one again. I could play with the ribbon all day, but we won't do that. This doesn't feel as curly to me, so I'm going to play with it a little bit more. Just with my hands. Now I'm going to sit down because I'm going to go back now. There's a piece of fray. Get that off. It was right on the outer edge, so I was able to just pull it off. Okay, chair, work with me. So now we're going to make sure all our ribbon on the bottom is placed accordingly. And we're lifting the mesh from the top layer on up so that we are not catching it on the ribbon. Making sure it's all straight out to the edge. Some of these traveled a little bit more than others up into the wreath. If I seem distracted, sorry, it's my husband. There's 34 minutes left. We have a big old rib roast in the oven, so he was worried that it was going to burn. That's what all that stuff was about that distracted me. I know what I'm doing. I'm very fortunate that I have a husband that loves to cook, so we share the duties. Sometimes he doesn't trust my judgment. And I can't blame him. I set off the smoke alarm today. Nothing burned, but I set it off. But he really can't say anything because he does it a lot. Alright, I think we're done there. And that explains why Doggo disappeared. Daddy's home. Alright, so I've got that all situated and it's good to go. There she is, all done. There you go. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you spending some time with me today while I create something pretty. I hope you liked everything that you saw, and if you did, feel free to subscribe to the channel. It's free. You can also find me on other platforms such as Pinterest, Instagram, and Facebook. I'm Wreaths by Marguerite on all those platforms. I just don't do TikTok. And all of my finished product is available in my Etsy shop. So you can find everything there. If you like what you've seen, come back and see me every Sunday. I put out another tutorial every Sunday at 1 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So thanks again for joining me. It's deeply appreciated. And until next time, happy crafting. Bye, guys. See you soon.